This is an introduction to the principles of design. The principles of design refers to a methodology of arranging the elements of art to create an effective design for the viewer. A reminder that the elements of art are line, shape, value, form, color, texture, and space. The principles of design can be summarized in this way: balance, contrast, emphasis, movement, pattern, rhythm, and unity or variety. Balance establishes a sense of equilibrium. There are essentially two different types of balance that are used visually. The image on the left is an example of symmetrical balance. It appears that the elements that make this up, the shapes inside this picture, are fairly symmetrical. Symmetrical meaning that they look nearly identical to the other half. It's as if there is a mirror down the middle of that image, or an estimation of a mirror. That would be symmetrical balance. Asymmetrical balance is when the elements on a page are arranged not in a way that it is a mirror image on each side, but in a way that still is weighted and placed to feel as if it is balanced overall. Think of like a teeter-totter and bodies with different...
Can I get Cody Glassy to come to the attendance office, please? Thank you.
Bodies with different masses on a teeter-totter can be arranged nearer or further away from the center point, the fulcrum, to create real-life physical balance. Similarly, elements on a page don't need to be the exact same on both sides to create a sense of balance. It depends on how big the shapes are, what color the shapes are, where they are placed on the page to create a sense of balance or imbalance. Contrast. Contrast refers to things that are different, as we know from a Venn diagram. Contrast in a visual sense can refer to color. There are contrasting colors, opposite colors, like reds and greens and blues and oranges are contrasting each other. Contrast can refer to size differences. Contrast can refer to differences in space. There are several examples on this page of contrast. The word contrast, for example, has been separated into two parts. The positive and the negative spaces there have been reversed to create contrast. The circles on this page are not all the same size. Clearly, one is different from the others. Therefore, it is contrasted to the others. This hiker in the painting below is dark in value and silhouetted, and therefore contrasts the misty background. Emphasis. Emphasis means using color, contrast, size, shape, or placement to draw attention to the most important point in an artwork. The examples to the right use color as one means of creating emphasis, an area that draws the attention of the eye, but also a sense of balance is used in the lower picture to create contrast, and contrast, in turn, can create emphasis. movement. Movement on a still picture is conveyed in a different way than it is through film. The principle of movement means directing the viewer's eye across a viewing space. For example, the lines on the top of the page resemble dominoes. And those dominoes appear to be falling because of our innate knowledge and experience with gravity. Innately, we know that dominoes are lines that are not standing in a balanced position, like those on the right, would ultimately collapse down to the floor. And therefore, it gives the perceived sense of motion. In the lower picture, Van Gogh's Starry Night, there are no moving elements. However, the way these small segmented lines are arranged in swirls and patterns encourages the viewer's eye to move throughout the page. This is also considered movement. Pattern refers to any repetition of an element over and over again. Repetition can be used to represent eternity. Repetition can be used to create patterns, such as the tessellations shown here by M.C. Escher on the lower picture. It can also be used to create a sense of expectancy, and then that can be subverted with something that contrasts the pattern and draws attention. Many of the elements of art can be used to create pattern. You can create pattern with lines, or with shapes, or with textures, or with colors, or with different values, or the sense of form, or how space is used on the page. Rhythm is a type of movement in art that can be seen through the repeating of shapes and colors. Rhythm is very similar to pattern. However, it can be more organic than how we traditionally think of pattern. You can see in these lines here to the right how they may not make a distinct, identifiable pattern. However, commonality of the colors used, the arrangement of those lines on the page in a predominantly horizontal fashion creates a sense of rhythm. Unity and variety. Unity is when elements are used in a similar way to draw connections throughout the piece. The image on the left is a great example of unity. Sharp angles, geometric forms, and a muted color palette all help to unify that piece into one collective whole. Variety is used to differentiate parts of an object or a picture, as is seen in the painting to the right. There are elements of unity in it with the circular shapes, but there's a vast array and variety of how those circles are used and in the values and colors that are used in that piece. That is an introduction to the principles of design.